Hello, this is Grant Hughes of Grant Hughes Investigates on YouTube. Please hit that like button, share, and subscribe. Today will be an update of the Telegram message or whatever communication that Stephen Stearns had on Telegram on the night that Madeline Soto went missing. It's also a re-upload of a video on the case that virtually nobody really saw. So for some of you, only about 1,500 or 2,000 of you, you'll have seen this. It's an interesting video. It talks about the location of where Stephen Stearns' vehicle was pulled over with a flat tire and discusses various elements of the case that I think you'll find interesting. So this is the image that after doing a search on a particular website, it shows the last time that Stephen Stearns used Telegram. And if you look at the date, it's 2024-02-26. Now, what I didn't mention in the previous video, because I didn't notice it, was that it's GMT time. So that's 4:49, and they do it that way just to have a consistent time of where the data is collected from, and then it's up to the user to figure out what time zone they are in compared to GMT time. All right, so let's take a look at a website where we can do a calculation here. So GMT time is 0. Out of the 24 time zones, it's 0, and it actually goes forward the further east you go. So like, into Russia, China, it's, plus 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc. But in the United States, it goes back to, like on the East Coast, it's -5. And then on the West Coast, where I live, it's -8. All right, so that means let's just go back in time here. Let's see if I can make the screen a little bit bigger, and there you go, you can see it. So let's go back to that date, February 26th, and it's GMT 5:15, but let's make that, what is it, 4:50? Let's just do 5 o'clock. That's close, because it's 4:49. And then let's put in Orlando, Florida right here. All right, 5 a.m. So now it's 12 a.m., but let's just go back one little notch. So it's 4:45. Now look at it, it's 11:45 p.m. on Sunday the 25th. So it's really, if you go back to the image here, it's really 11:49 and 5 seconds late in the evening after the party. So was Madeline Soto with Stephen Stearns right here? It does seem pretty significant, though, that he's on Telegram, a site that is used by predators. It's used by other people, too. But given the circumstances in this case, it seems like there's a very good chance that he is using it related to Madeline Soto. And this information, by the way, was sent to law enforcement a couple weeks ago. That is the update on this information. It's actually 11:49 p.m. on the night of February 25th, Sunday, the night of the birthday party. Okay, so the rest of this video is going to be a continuation of a video that I already put out, but hardly anybody saw. For some reason, it didn't hit the algorithm or whatever it is that YouTube secret sauce is. I don't know. Apparently later on Court TV, they might be discussing this very screenshot right here. I'm not exactly sure, but I think they might be. Okay, so let's get started on the other portion of the video right now. This video today is regarding the Madeline Soto case and the location where the flat tire was. I made a video on that a week or so ago, and the confusion happened when this officer right here in the press conference called it Old Hickory Tree Road. I believe 100% that they meant Hickory Tree Road, and I'll explain why. I did this in a live stream the very next day, and I explained to everybody how I believe that there was an error, but I think it's more important to put it out in the video where more people can see it. All right, so it's a correction of that, although I was also confused in that video of how they were able to determine where Madeline's body was likely located if the vehicle indeed was pulled over on the side of the road at Hickory Tree Road. they're not really connected. So let's just listen to the press conference.
The Florida tag is IYLL82. On Monday, February 26th, between 1 and 2:30 p.m. in the area of State Road 192 and Old Hickory Tree Road, as well as Old Hickory Tree Road and Nolte Road.
So there you go. And on the map, that location is right here. So it's 192 and Old Hickory Tree Road. And I was thinking, how in the hell were they able to figure out where the crime scene was if the vehicle was pulled over right here with a flat tire? The crime scene was way over here. And then somebody out there sent me a message on, I think it was on Facebook, where the actual person who saw the flat tire commented. And here is that comment by Thomas Karras. He said, I gave the pictures to Osceola County law enforcement as they started their search, and they found her where I saw him. Crime Line told me I did not have enough information, but Osceola law enforcement jumped right to action. Thank God for the Osceola law enforcement and Kissimmee Police Department. I saw him around 1:20 p.m. Monday on Old Hickory Tree pullover on a roundabout that has a cargo shipping container. He was in on the right-hand side heading towards Harmony. He was wearing green, light brown hat backwards. I didn't see anyone else in the vehicle. He was outside the car at the back left tire with a tire iron, looking like he was changing it, but I couldn't say for sure. Now look at, he says Old Hickory Tree Road also. But here's the thing, you know that there is not a shipping container on this road here. Right across the area from the crime scene, remember I put out the video of the crime scene location early on, right across is this pullover here. And if you go down to Street View, you can see it. This is the location where Stephen Stearns pulled his car over. And look what happens to be in the background, a shipping container. So that is the exact spot. He referred to it as Old Hickory Tree Road. And we know that the crime scene is right here. Right in this location. I'm not sure what that is right there, but there's a little post in the ground there. That's actually from February of 2023. And currently there's a huge memorial right in this area. Okay, so that is the crime scene location. Now Harmony, that Thomas Karras mentioned, he mentioned that it was on the way heading towards Harmony. If we go on the map here and go up in the air, if he was heading this direction around and then came out on 192, Harmony is right there. Sorry for the map not updating there, but that indicates that he was heading in that direction. He wore the backwards baseball hat just like he does in the second interview that they were in, where he was hovering in the background, and then also in the interview that he did where he was crying. He has his hat backwards. That's how he wears it. So that really is good indication that that's exactly where the witness saw him pulled over. One of the questions that people want answered is, did he pull over intentionally to make it look like he had a flat tire to put her body over there? I think you can make very, very valid arguments in both ways. I don't know why he would need to, in a standard pullover, why he'd need to make it look like he had a flat tire. Maybe it was because he put her in the trunk and the trunk's open and the trunk needs to stay open because he isn't going to have time to shut it himself. So he makes it look like it's a flat tire and people just go, oh yeah, that's the trunk's open for that reason. And then he walks across the road, and apparently the gate was open on Court TV. One of their investigators on the ground there interviewed the person who owns the property, or at least spoke with him, and they said that the gate was open. So he could have walked through the gate, and then he walked around and placed her right here. He probably wasn't able to walk this long distance and was afraid to be away from the vehicle and somebody stopping and watching him walk into the woods carrying something pretty large. I think in this location here, he probably pulled his car over and he looked both ways. It's a good area to see both directions. And when he saw nobody was coming, he quickly pulled her out and pulled her over there. Now, somebody drove by right when his vehicle was parked there. And I wonder if at that point he hid. These are much thicker now, these trees here. I wonder if he hid when the car drove by, and people would just think, oh, somebody has a flat tire, and they would drive by. But I mean, isn't that kind of dumb? Because a flat tire, being fixed, stands out a hell of a lot more than just a car sitting there. People would just think, oh, somebody's out hiking or walking around, or they're taking a nap, I didn't see him. They wouldn't look as much. But if it's a flat tire, you would look over at the vehicle. I think it's very possible that he really did have a flat tire. And we also know that he also appears to have a flat tire in this image right here. And what I mean by have a flat tire, that means he's changed the tire. Now, why would he go through that much effort to actually literally put the donut on there just to sell the ruse even more? Wouldn't he just have the car jacked up and eventually, when nobody's looking, just drive away and just make it look like he's changing a tire? Why would he literally go through with changing the tire? Put comments in the comments section on what you think. I think it's a little bit unusual that he put the donut back on the car, or actually on the car, and drove away with his real tire in the vehicle. Now, that would be a very good investigative piece of information by law enforcement to check the original tire and see, is there any damage to it? If there's no damage to it, then it's 100% a ruse. If there is damage to it, then it likely was an actual flat tire. I actually think he had a flat tire. I know it's sort of against the grain, but I don't know why. Well, we've already gone through the reasons. I think if he needed to have the trunk open and leave it open because he can't really shut it after he takes her out, if that's how he transported her, then he would have had to move her across here quickly, but it wasn't quick enough. Somebody drove by and saw his car sitting there, and they recognized it. We don't know if the trunk was open, though. I'd like to actually talk to that person and see if I can get a little bit more information on it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments section. It seems like he would have wanted to put her somewhere else, but it could have just been a really rash decision. That's why it seems like none of this was really planned. Everything's kind of quick and doesn't really make a lot of sense. At 8:19, law enforcement sees her in the vehicle. They believe she's not even alive in that image. So did he have her propped up to make it look like she was alive driving around when Jennifer Soto said that she saw Madeline at 8 in the morning getting ready? Is that something that she came up with on her own to say, or was that something that Stefan told her to say because, he's innocent, he doesn't know what's going on, but can you just say that you saw her? I know that you were still sleeping, etc. And he got her to say that because at 7:35 in the morning, he was putting Madeline's backpack and laptop into a dumpster. So that means that it's very likely that Madeline wasn't alive before that time. Now, I do have some information out there. We haven't been able to verify if it's time zone sensitive, but somebody did a search on Stefan Stearns and found that he has an account associated with this encrypted site that at 4:49 and 5 seconds in the morning, on the very same morning that Madeline likely was killed, he is using this app, and it's encrypted, and it's used by predators as well. Normal people use it too, just to put out information, but predators use this site, and it's interesting. If we still have to do a couple more searches from different parts of the country to make sure that that is a consistent local time, because it could just be that it was 4 something in the morning in the time of the person who did the search. So it could have just been earlier in the day. So that'll be interesting information. I'm going to go check that out on my own. So I guess just recapping everything now. This is the apartment right here. This is the dumpster. And apparently this is the dumpster he was putting the laptop and backpack in. And that was at 7:35. Now, did he leave at that time too? There's some information that we don't have filled in by law enforcement. They said he returns at 8:19. Well, did he leave at 7:35? Because we don't hear that in the press conference that he left at 7:35. And if he did leave at 7:35, that means she's in the vehicle at that time, because we know at 8:10 the license plate reader near the school picked him up. And that means she's in the car at that time, likely not alive as well. And then it comes back at 8:19. So in some ways it feels like he went out to go get her because he placed her somewhere else. Or was that just a show? You know, for lack of a better, maybe like a Weekend at Bernie's type of situation where he puts her in the car and props her up and drives around so that if there is camera footage out there, it looks like, so maybe he's just driving around with her body propped up to make it look like he's driving her around, because later he's going to put her somewhere else and have her hidden in the vehicle. But what I don't understand, though, is why would you come back at 8:19 with her body totally visible for people to see? I mean, you're coming back, but he apparently claims, I had to come back and get the clicker to open the gate. Okay, but you're coming back in. Well, you don't really make any sense there. I mean, apparently that's what he told investigators. So I don't know. There's some missing pieces of the puzzle that law enforcement likely has, because they have the camera footage here. They know when his car left and when it came back in. They're just telling us, when it came back at 8:19, her body was visible and she likely wasn't alive in that video. So let's just say at 8:19 he comes back and he goes back over to the apartment over here. And then where was she kept for all those hours? Because at 1:20, that is when the witness saw the car pulled over with the flat tire. Where was her body at that time? Did he leave it in the vehicle, or did he carry her back in the car? When he pulled over, did he look around and then put her body in the trunk of his vehicle so that nobody could see her when they were walking by during the day? Or did he leave at noon and drive around and do things and then eventually was heading out to the spot where he ended up at? It does take about 45 minutes or so to drive from the house out here. So if it was 1:20, he would have had to leave at like 12:30 from his home. So it would have been 8:19 until 4:20, almost 4 hours. Madeline Soto's body was likely just sitting in the car at the apartment complex. And then eventually he leaves again. They don't mention, though, in the press conference, that the car left the complex again at this time. They don't mention any of that stuff, so we're left wondering. Now, eventually, if they charge him with homicide, once they get all the toxicology back, then there'll probably be a probable cause document for that arrest, those charges. He's already been arrested. I think that will have the detailed information and have it really dialed in, and that will be very interesting to go over. So at 8:19, he comes back to the apartment complex over here. 8:10, he was apparently up here near the school on a license plate reader, and I actually found there's a plate reader there, and there's also a plate reader further down right here. And I don't know if they saw him coming this direction and then maybe went back to the apartment and got in there back in there at about 8:19. And then hours later, the vehicle, I think, came down and took a right here on Hickory Tree Road and came down this direction. I think just to get back to what we were talking about at the beginning, is that I think that law enforcement meant Hickory Road, and it makes a hell of a lot more sense. So they wanted us to look for surveillance footage between Nolte Road and Hickory Tree Road. This is Old Hickory Tree Road. And then they also said 192 and Old Hickory Tree Road, but I think they meant Hickory Tree Road. And that would be 192 right here. So there's 192. And This is Hickory Tree Road right there. And in that location, it comes right around and you're over here. Now look, doesn't that seem like a more rational range from here around? I think they know for certain that the vehicle turned right on Hickory Tree Road, came straight down. They have footage of them, I believe, in this area. But from here and around, they want people who live in the area that saw something to say something. And I think they believe that he left via 192 right over here. And where he went from there, we don't know. Did he go back home? That would just be 192 all the way around. And then eventually, I mean, it goes almost right to the house. So you take 192 and then take a right on Hoganland Boulevard, and then you're right in there. Maybe even take a right here. I don't know if that you're able to do that. Yeah, you can take a right there on Dyer Boulevard, and then come up here, take a left on Kennington Road, and then kind of just get back into the apartment complex. You can get on San Gallo Road there, Venetian Bay Drive right in this area, and that gets you back in there. You can also, off of 192, come straight up here and came in the front area off of Hoagland Boulevard. And we don't know where he went after he put Madeline Soto's body in the hedges right next to the road here. So let me know what you guys think about where he was, what he was doing. I mean, it's really interesting, isn't it? It's like, what the hell was this guy doing? Why was she sort of propped up in the vehicle where somebody could literally see in the car that she wasn't alive? Perhaps she was even laying down in the back seat, but the video is so clear that you could see her back there. Now, if he's going to claim, well, she was sleeping, who the hell goes to sleep on the way to school in a 9-minute drive? Nobody does that. And also, as we've talked about in other shows, it was 8:30 in the morning when he claims he dropped her off, but she was actually in the car at 8:19, but school doesn't start till 9:30, 9:40. So does that make any sense? You drop her off at the church so she can run over? Some people say, well, maybe she went over there to have breakfast first. I mean, we can all sit here and make excuses, but the reality is the whole story in the morning that was told by Stephen Stearns and parroted by Jennifer Soto was totally bogus. We know that because it's just not true based on the actual evidence in the case. Everybody knows that Stephen Stearns put her body there. We're still waiting on how she died. I think it's most likely that he physically harmed and killed her, but it's also possible that he gave her a drug, which would mean that he's responsible again, and he was giving her the drug to assault her in the middle of the night, and maybe Jennifer Soto had no idea, like he snuck out, and then she died from the drug. And that's what law enforcement's trying to determine right now. Was she assaulted that night? Were they able to find any bodily fluids inside of Madeline from Stephen Stearns? We don't know. I think there's a good chance that Jen Soto has no knowledge of what happened to Madeline prior to those press conferences. I think now she absolutely knows, and it sounded like law enforcement believed that she acted exactly how a normal mother would grieve when she found out that her daughter wasn't alive. She has been cooperating, and maybe that's why she's not talking to anybody. And I wonder if that was from the advice from police. Jen is attacked all the time. Now, I was on Court TV, and I think, maybe she should have known or heard something. But when somebody's sleeping, maybe she was drugged too. Maybe she does a little bit of drugs with Stephen. He gave her a little bit more so she could be a little bit more drowsy, and just absolutely was out cold. And then in the morning he goes, hey, I took her to school. Hey, everything. I want to know if he is the one that told her, hey, I drove her to school this morning, right when he got home. But even before any of the missing person situation happened, because she goes over there to pick her up. She obviously didn't drive, right? So that means that she knows that he drove Madeline to school. So is she just saying, oh, I saw her at 8 in the morning to help him? He's probably like, hey, I got up. I was the responsible one, Jen. I was the one that drove, and she's missing now. Okay, so can you just say that you saw her too? I mean, it's not really fair. Make sure that you say that you saw her too. So she's like, yeah, I saw her getting ready at 8 in the morning, because she wants to make it seem like she was awake, but she was probably sleeping, and maybe they, had a little bit of fun later in the evening. And then he does something to Madeline later in the evening. He's totally sober, perhaps. And it ends up killing her in some fashion. And then, perhaps, very early in the morning, is when he took her body somewhere, but we haven't heard that he left really early in the morning. I think the 7:35 time when he's putting the laptop and backpack in the garbage is the important time. It's sort of disappointing that when you have the reporters there, they don't ask the questions like, hey, so at 7:35, was he leaving the complex at that time? Because that makes the most sense, that at 7:35, that's the time he removed her. Now, if it is that late in the morning, that does sort of make it seem more plausible that Jen would have known that he's taking her body out of the house. And even though she's, grieving, they're trying to protect themselves because maybe there was some sort of drugs. But anyways, if it's at 7:35 and that's when he's leaving with her body, was perhaps, I'm just throwing out ideas like Jen's still kind of drugged up and sleeping, and he sneaks her out of the house and puts her in the trunk. I mean, how would he get her to the car without somebody seeing that? I mean, a lot of this stuff is just absolutely crazy. Was she still alive at 7:35? He puts her in the car, then kills her somewhere else, then drives her back, and she's not alive in the vehicle. But then why are you throwing her backpack and laptop if she's still alive in your car when you're leaving? She would be like, oh my God, and try to get the hell out of the car because you just threw away her backpack and laptop. So it feels like she's not alive at that point. I guess it's possible that late at night, he moved her body into the trunk of the car, and then in the morning at 7:35, he's throwing stuff away. But man, doesn't it make more sense that at really, really early in the morning that he drove away with her, put her somewhere, and then at 7:35 threw away her backpack and laptop, and then he went, oh wow, that wasn't a good spot. Then he went and got her again, came back at 8:19, and then when he got back to his apartment, he must have done something, because let me just say this, if she's so visible that people could see her on a surveillance camera, would you just park your car out there and have people walking around for 3 or 4 hours? No. So when he pulled over, he must have done something with her, maybe even covered it up with a blanket of some sort in the vehicle so that people couldn't see her. And then she sat there in the vehicle for 3-4 hours, and then he drives away again. They must have all of this stuff on camera. Sorry for rambling on there, but these are all things that keep popping into my mind. It gets really complicated. Pretty crazy. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I hope that clarified. I think law enforcement just misstated that it was Old Hickory Tree Road. Instead, it was, it's just Hickory Tree Road. It wasn't Old Hickory Tree Road. And then that makes all the sense in the world that the area that they want you to look at on your camera is right here, because they know that he turned here, drove down, and came around, and he probably exited out this direction because we know he was heading in that direction. And we also know that he did change a tire. His tire was changed. Do you think that he actually did that as part of the ruse? I don't know. I don't know. That would be crazy. He could have just pretended like he had a flat tire and then drove away on his normal tire after the coast was clear. There would be no reason to actually put on the other tire. All right. Anyways, thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. Anyways, thank you all very much for watching. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. Hitting that like button is so important, though. If you could just do that for me, that would be great. But sharing would also be awesome. So again, thank you. And as I always say, Until next time, be safe out there.